What's I find challenging today in this room full of people where you're all going to be chatting with me today on the personality types. Do they influence our, career choice, career sweet spot? That's the topic today. Is that there are 4 of us in here and only one of us has a different personality type.
Hey, that's not true.
Gosh.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
No, y'all are all whatever.
We're all the same
ENFPs.
Myers-Briggs, but we're different on other assessments.
Okay.
Y'all
Are
are
we? Is
all
that
Enneagram
confirmed?
7. No, Joe's an Enneagram 3.
No, I'm an Enneagram 7.
No, you are a 7. Okay, that's right.
And I just looked at it again last time. I always feel like, it says the 7 is the enthusiast, and I'm like, that's totally me. So it kind of sucks. This would be
then I'm an ENTP today because I'm right on the border.
Could you please take that side?
Yeah.
All right.
I got to support
Yeah.
Jacqueline.
You know which one I can take?
I feel left out.
Okay, you know which
Well,
one?
that is really
and
rare,
I feel like
though.
bad
Yes,
cop in
for-
here right
I
now
know.
because I'm totally bad cop in this.
Okay, so I'm going to take a different one too because I'm right on the fence with one letter.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm declaring.
Not the
for
whole greenhouse team is the same personality type. I feel like we
No,
need to call that out.
they actually
just who's in
are.
this room.
They
Who's in this room.
actually
I only
are.
hire people exactly.
So we have confused our
Except for
listeners.
me.
We've
Except
confused
Jacqueline.
except for one.
Because I
Me
needed
and Robin. Me and
I
Robin
needed a
are in it
weirdo.
together.
I needed one weirdo.
Everyone else needed to look the same except for one.
But I wanted to ensure
Yeah.
diversity, so I said, Jacqueline, you're in.
So I want to be clear to our listeners because we just bantered all over the place. I just would like to
What are
declare
we
that what I
doing
was
today?
saying there is that 3 of us on the Myers-Briggs lean on the ENFP side, although you're going to declare. Okay.
ENTP.
Okay. Right. I was just saying where we were starting
Yeah, you're
from.
definitely more of a
And I am going to take the ENFJ side because I tested a little bit right in the middle there.
Okay.
So I'm going to take that perspective.
Then our big goofball
Big
over
old
here.
goofball Joe over there. ENFP.
There's zero chance
Right.
I could even pretend to be a J.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know,
that
right?
is
You
true.
can't
I
said
even
that, I'm
make
like,
it.
I
You can't
could
even
fake
make
all
it.
the other. Actually, I don't know if
Yeah.
I could fake the S in the end.
Not
but
at all.
the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you are an ISFJ.
But
No.
I guess, okay, like,
Okay.
the defender.
Yes, the defender.
she will
I don't
be
know why that-
defending her turf
That
today.
always makes me.
You know what? I
It
know
just
what-
But like
feels a
strength
little
finders, for
intense.
example, we all have
We
different
all have
ones.
different. You just really
I've
wanted
never
to sit a
done
lot.
that though.
Are you
I
okay
just
there,
don't want her to
Steve?
feel alone.
Thanks, Steve.
There's other assessments
Yeah.
that
And
we're different on.
I am just starting with the Myers-Briggs one for those who are listening. We're just talking in general. Do personality assessments kind of guide and direct in this area? So I thought I'd first talk about the fact that people have asked me all the time, what do you think about people testing for you when you come into a workplace? I feel like it was something that was done a lot more in the past, and it is not done very often now.
Some places do it though.
They have
But less of a hiring process and more of a once you're here, figure out
Yes.
like how we work together.
I think I 100% see that.
I like
one.
that version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
But the hiring process, it feels a little skewed to me
Mm-hmm.
because, okay, so let's take the assumption of an ENFP.
Mm-hmm.
We are considered really like not process oriented, maybe sometimes even disorganized, right? Procrastinators. So someone might never, first of all, hire an ENFP. Those are 3 really tough qualities, but that is just like a nutshell version of an ENFP. Like there's development and wisdom and things you learn in life. And so that's
That's the problem with it being part of hiring is
Yes.
you're talking to non-experts, like using an assessment at a shallow level. So
Yeah.
in your example, an ENFP is actually the type that can absorb the most information. Great quality for an
Mhm.
employee, but like that's not what's talked about on the surface.
so true.
But wasn't there a movie about this?
About,
Inception.
well, the one we were
Inception.
mentioning, Persona.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I was, and that one didn't reflect positively about,
That was talking about how a trend started where companies were using, and they were talking a lot about the origins of Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
To get into how companies were using personality assessments unethically in the hiring process to make decisions.
yeah,
It was, even though we love personality assessments, I thought that was a great show.
I did too.
It did kind of uncover some of the dark sides of it.
just like this question though, with people saying, can a personality guide your career choice? It can guide, but it shouldn't be the only thing But it's just like I don't like stereotyping in any setting. I don't like it when someone says, "Oh, you're a 7 on it," or I can see that you're a 2. That actually just drives me nuts. Period. How about you guys? Just flippantly assume things about you because of a certain number or a type.
Totally, especially when so much of our personality is based on what's going on the inside, right? Like your personality is a reflection of who you are internally. And so it feels like when someone is like, oh, Jacqueline, you're such a 1 because you're such a perfectionist. It's like, wow, you're really only seeing like one part of who I actually am, or it feels very limiting. Like all I am is a perfectionist to you, which isn't true.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the 3 I'm going to kind of bounce around today are Enneagram, which you're going to speak to a little bit, and then Myers-Briggs, and a tiny bit of insights discovery. For those who haven't heard it, it's red, yellow, which Personalysis also has that.
And DISC.
And DISC, yeah.
But helpful to know, DISC, Personalysis, Insights Discovery, they use the colors similar, but there are differences.
There are.
So you can't say like, oh, you're a green on DISC.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're a green on the others.
Right.
I think we gotta, I don't know why I thought, like all the coaches at Greenhouse have different like areas of expertise with different assessments. And when you said that in my head, I was like, oh yeah, because Sunday loves Myers-Briggs and Jacqueline loves Enneagram and I love Personalysis and Dana's done some with strengths. I don't know what's her favorite. Do you know? But then I was like, Tracy, she loves that working genius.
Poor Tracy.
And she doesn't, but she recently did a workshop for a team that was really focused on the working genius, which is a newer one. And it's like, coaches, we like to joke about it because it's a shallower assessment, but it's also good in that way because it's just like light and easy.
Yeah.
Now I want to make fun of Tracy all the time, like, and she loves the working genius.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'd like to ask if any of you used personality in your younger years as an assessment to figure out what you wanted to do. Did any of you use it?
So the first thing that came to mind, I have this really vivid memory of being in middle school. And I don't know why, if it was part of like a career counseling placement type thing. I don't know why, but I just remember sitting in like the computer lab and taking this test that was going to tell me what I was going to be good at. And I think it maybe was going to help decide like maybe what, you know how you would like take those classes that weren't like math, science, English. It was like the extra classes. I forget what they're called, but it was like one of those.
The extracurricular classes?
Yeah, like what were those called? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I remember sitting there. Electives. Thank you. There it is.
So long.
I think it was to help pick like your electives for high school or something like that. And so, of course, I remember taking this test and it was like, okay, you for sure are going to be in some people helping profession, either a nurse, a counselor, or I forget what the other one was. And it kind of felt like, all right, this is telling me exactly what I'm going to do. But I will never forget this kid next to me who was like total like class clown. He was so funny. He got farmer and he was like, I don't want to be a farmer. Like, he's like, what the hell? Like, he's like, I don't even know how to farm. Like, what does that even mean? And of course, there was no like
guidance, right?
No guidance. It was just like, here's your test results. And it's like, all right, I guess I'm going to take like elective anatomy
There's, like,
next
some
year.
kind of amazing like Squid Games
so
show
funny.
around that where like they pick a lottery ball out and it's like, well, you got farmer.
Yeah.
See ya. And then they like to go the rest of their life and
Like,
just go
how
be a farmer.
defeating for that person who, and he's probably like, I don't want to be, but that was the only guidance so far.
That is
that
what
he had.
you are.
Yeah, that is what you
And
are.
it feels kind of like a limiting
does.
belief, right? It's like all
Absolutely.
right
Yeah.
away. It was like, well, I guess I'm
Okay.
just destined, like for me, I guess I'm just like destined to be in a people
Well, no,
helping
that's
profession.
actually on a serious note. Like when we were talking about doctor, lawyer, analyst, engineer, there's also the like teacher, firefighter, because and nurse is a good one too. Where I don't think they were intending to box anyone in, but they were using like common, well-known fields that we would all know, like you know, like a farmer or a nurse, or like a counselor and a nurse, because we all know those. Meanwhile, there's 102 other options that your type could do.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like
No mind that like I don't have a science
Yeah.
brain. I should never have even tried to pursue. right? Like science is not my
Uh-huh.
strength at
So
all.
it was the people part.
It was
though.
the people part, but it
Right.
was like that did not become clear to me until I was like way at the end
Yeah.
of college, like had already done all my credits. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll just like try to finish up and
Yeah.
salvage what we have here
Well,
and just see like
I
what
guess,
happens.
Jacqueline, the only
next.
other option for you then is insurance sales.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what I got on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The only people reaching out to me were State Farm agents. Listen, you're great if you're a
We
State
just
Farm.
lost a State Farm agent listener.
We did.
You are really great at what you do, and I'm grateful
We
for you.
need
But
you.
that
Right.
was not what I was hoping.
Right. No.
for.
That to me right there is the reason why I'm such an
Yeah.
advocate of
Yeah.
certification. Like getting someone certified in the personality assessments, because a lot of misunderstanding and typecasting, and like it could affect years of their life because of one thing that they heard or were told. I was listening actually to a podcast, favorite guy, Adam Grant. And I think Claude Steele. So he was on talking to Adam Grant about breaking stereotypes. So it's connected to this. And he was like, one of the things he said was, if you put a room full of people together, boys and girls, which statistically the stereotype is that boys are better at math than girls, right? And you maybe even say that in the beginning, even like, I know that typically a lot of you girls might be feeling a little nervous right now because boys, like if you said this, almost 100% will the boys do better on the test because of even how you set it up,
Yeah.
right? However, in another experimental room, he said something like, hey guys, we're going to be taking a math test today, but this is not the one where guys do better. This is the one where girls do better on the math test, and it's the same test. Statistically, the girls will do better. So he was just talking about stereotypes. So you can get
Yeah,
and
totally.
but one of the things he really talked about was how one word, one statement, one comment from a teacher, one bad analysis from a personality could put someone into a rut or a good place. And he goes, literally set them up for success or failure in their life.
Yeah.
Good podcast.
Yeah, because like in those first scenario, even when someone's trying to almost debunk the stereotype,
right.
that implies an assumption that the stereotype is true. And so then it still has the same effect.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, that's what makes that stuff so hard to enter into. But
yeah.
I know. I think I wish when I taken that test, even as I got into college and was kind of steps, I wish there had been a conversation around like, okay, so you're attracted to these fields. What is it about it that you like to do? Because I would still say I feel like my passion falls squarely in a people helping bucket, just not necessarily like medical or, whatever. It's more
Or teacher.
or
Right.
like more the nuances around helping people. And it hasn't been until really like recently that has started to click and make sense. But I do think that there's just a lot of stereotype around that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I love our process. I love our process.
You what? You do?
What a plug.
I do like that part of our process where we get to the why behind it. And I mean, for me, it was no one made me do an assessment. There was one like summer job where they had me do some version of Strength Finders, and they're like, you have woo, and they didn't explain what that word meant. And I was like, what's woo? And then I went home.
It is such a weird.
So that was it. But then later in, my story of like trying to figure out my life is I pulled out all the different assessments I had done
Right.
and kind of laid them out to see if there was anything in common across them.
Yeah.
Which was pretty confusing because there was no translation.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it actually kind of left me like, so now what? Or assumptions that don't get to the nuance behind it. So I do like that about not just our process, but a lot of coaching in general. You kind of dig into that. How do you translate the piece?
Well, what you said is actually this is not a rocket science podcast today. It's a simple takeaway, and you kind of just touched on it. The takeaway when you look at, if let's just say you Googled it, and I actually brought some for example, is that you look at the themes, that you don't look, I think people are too literal. So that you don't just say, oh my gosh, this says that I should be a pilot. Then I should be a pilot. And I'm like, no, actually, let's just think about what the day in the life of a pilot looks like. What is it that they're doing with their mind? Where are they generally sitting? What is, what's their, the flow of their day. So it's like, take that and say, does that resonate? That's what they're trying to pull out from your personality there. And I think if you look at the themes, you can learn a lot.
Yeah.
And by the way, some people still don't. They still can't find a theme.
Right. But this is why transferable skills is a thing.
Yeah.
Because the same stuff you do as a
Great
pilot
point.
might be the same stuff that you do in a completely different job, in a completely different industry. Because we say pilot, but underneath that are a whole bunch of nuanced little tasks.
Yeah. Joe, you and I were talking a little bit beforehand, and I was telling you what we were going to talk about today. And I said, did I ask you what typically ENFPs are told they'd be really good at and you knew the answer, or did I tell you? Yeah.
It was that sheet you had sent before.
Right. And so I had mentioned that ENFPs often get told that they'd be great bartenders.
Mm-hmm. And life coaches were on there.
I know, and life coaches, which is really interesting.
Funny.
But some people are like, what? Like, it makes them feel less than sometimes, maybe, if they're like, what, only a bartender?
Yeah, and even the jobs that you wouldn't like lawyer was on there. And I'm like, well, there's parts of it, like I thought about it. I wouldn't like the paperwork. And that's what they were saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you hear the job.
You hear the job. I mean, let's just break that apart. Like, why would you, who you're the stereotype ENFP today, even though, because we all called something else. Why would your personality type be told they want to be a bartender? Potentially.
Like variability in a schedule, like you would be making different drinks, you'd interacting with people. It's fun. You're not stuck doing boring paperwork, remedial task all day. Like, it just seems kind of interesting. And it's a lot of the qualities that I care about could be in that job.
Right.
But I don't want to be a bartender.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to say,
I want to be a bartender.
Although I would part-time.
Yeah.
Part-time would be cool.
Yeah.
I just said
I
the other
would.
day, it's like my dream little side gig would be a bartender.
I also
Yeah.
feel like side thought. I feel like a bartender is like right now because cocktails are
That's
like
true.
so much fun right
That's
now.
true.
I
For
feel
me,
like
we all want to be one.
I know, truly. Like, I think
Yeah.
we all want to be one right now because we've all
'Cause there's a
met some
creative
really
element.
great
Yeah.
bartenders out there right now.
Plus,
I just
drinks
thought of
are like
two-
$70. So
Yeah.
True.
That just reminded me of two examples that are similar. One is there was somebody did a story. It may have been Harvard Business Review. It was about when in general, like tech and financial services, like they needed more coders. And you also had like coal miners in the West Virginia area needing new career paths. And there was this whole effort. Someone like started a nonprofit or something to help retrain coal miners to be lower level coders in big companies. And it was a total success because it was the same types of like learn a repetitive process and do it over and over types of things. There were certain elements of the tasks that were similar, even though on the surface you'd think they couldn't be two things more different.
Right.
And a similar one that this is just funny to me is if anyone's seen the show, it was like a 2-parter on Netflix called Soms, like sommeliers. It was about wine sommeliers.
Yes.
And great show, like super entertaining, even though it seems nerdy. It's really funny because what you learn throughout, I won't spoil it, but basically like wine sommeliers who are the master, like the people who know the most about wine, they can literally smell it and tell you everything about where it came from and, what notes are in it. A lot of them, the majority of those people are like former athletes because what's the shared common task? Memorization, like repetition, practice, and memorization.
Oh, interesting.
So I think of those two examples sometimes where it's like, wait, those things are two totally different. Yeah, but they're the same. It's the why underneath, like the personality type.
I know one thing for sure is that right now I would really like a cocktail.
Oh,
Me too.
Because it's 4:00.
as
would
the
be
resident
great.
bartender,
Almost. We
I've
have
got
talked
you as
about
the
bartending.
Okay,
ENFP.
pause. Let's all go around. What would you pick right now? Right now.
easy.
Old fashioned.
Okay, speaking of, when we were out of town this past weekend, we went to this restaurant and Jonathan asks the waiter, which cocktail should I get? Like, which one would you recommend? And he goes, no hesitation, our old fashioned. And Jonathan was like, okay. And he was like, I promise ours is the best you've ever had. And Jonathan was
Ooh,
like,
big promise.
great. Okay.
Yeah.
So he brings it out. It is hands down the best old fashioned we have ever
There is a
had.
difference between a kick
Yes.
and
100%.
Yes. And they use their own like cherry syrup. They're careful about which bitters they pick. You know, there were a lot of things that went into this drink,
Good.
but I was like, this truly is
Yeah.
like the best old fashioned. He was
Or
totally right, which I
Had
love.
they planted that in your brain by
Yeah.
saying it
Right,
beforehand?
maybe.
If they had,
Oh, maybe so.
if
Maybe
they had
so.
said
And
this is the
you know,
worst one.
the sun was setting. We were looking
Yeah.
out over the ocean. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Like
Okay.
it was
did
a
seem
great
pretty
drink.
great.
It was a great drink.
Good question though. What would you pick?
Oh gosh. Ooh. I'm having your
Analysis paralysis.
your analysis
Yeah.
paralysis
Okay.
because I feel like I have to pick.
No, just now. What you're
Okay,
feeling now.
right now, I want a New York sour.
That.
Boom.
York
Good
sour.
answer.
How about
Mm.
you, Joe? Didn't know I was going to ask you that.
Didn't
I'm
know.
not well versed on what Joe likes.
I know, Joe. Yeah, what do you like?
Classics are old fashions.
Classic?
That's like my favorite if
Okay.
it's a good
Okay.
one. Like I don't like the ones that are like if it's got an orange slice in there, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like I don't like those. It's got to
Gotcha.
just be like the peel, not too sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a good one sounds good. Also, I know you went through a phase, Steve, of the Boulevardiers. That
Well-
could be an
Wait, what's that?
It's a take on an old fashioned
Okay.
where it has
Take.
Well, it's like a Negroni meets an old fashioned.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
is it
what
with
they made us in
tequila?
Arizona at the Noom conference.
Is it with tequila?
No, it's the name of the I forget the name.
Is it a rye?
Brand something.
Oh no. Oh, is it specific? A
Yeah.
specific whiskey?
Yeah, because I was gonna buy it the other day because it's a specific liquor. I was gonna buy it the other.
Gremignon?
Yes.
Good
Love
job.
Gremignon.
Mm.
Good job.
I'm
Love
pretty
it.
sure that's what it is.
It
So I was gonna
is
buy it just
The
to make a Boulevardier.
because it's an orange liqueur.
Yeah, the guy at the bar, he was like the founder of this resort or whatever. He was like, I said, make me whatever. What are you up for? Because it
Yeah.
was just everyone was in session and we were the only ones
That's
at the
right.
bar.
That's right.
And so he
Lucky.
goes, well, I have all the time in the world, so I'm making you our founder's favorite,
Yeah.
Boulevardier. And I was like,
Ugh.
never had it. Cool. And remember, I
Yeah.
came over and I sipped it and I was like,
oh my gosh.
this is
so
great.
great.
Okay.
Okay, but my favorite right now is a Jacqueline shout out.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
So are we on the
We
mic
just-
right now?
Yeah.
We are right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't
don't
sure
know.
if this was sidebar.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So
It could-
the Vesper Martini
uh-huh.
is
I didn't think you were gonna say that. I thought you were gonna say the Martinez.
well, hold
Okay,
on.
sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, no.
I get really passionate.
You
about
do.
it.
It's so
So-
adorable.
So Jacqueline's husband, Jonathan, I guess first a shout out to him. He introduced us all to the Vesper Martini, but he makes it in like a tumbler glass, and it's just like the best thing ever. And it's this time of day, I think, is when it's great.
Yeah.
And then,
It's boozy.
yeah, it's real boozy, but it's like clean and crisp,
Yep.
and you feel it. And then you guys sent me a picture recently. You were like, new take on the Vesper, try it out. So that night I tried it out. It is gin, sweet vermouth, Lajardo, and bitters.
Yep.
And
Y'all.
it is
She's showing us a picture
Wow.
right now.
And that is my counter in the kitchen.
Mm.
That's literally we made those last night.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I love that
yeah.
you asked us what cocktail.
Yeah. So back
Now
to
that we're
personality.
done sharing our cocktails, which is really hard to like make the shift. I'm actually going to go to Steve's since you're representing the ENTP.
do cocktails represent your personality?
Do
Yes.
I bet that's a whole thing too. I bet that's a
We
whole
could
thing.
bet
make
it
that a
is.
thing.
Yeah, we could.
But
make
what do you
that a
do if you're a
thing.
generalist and you know that all of the cocktails represent
Right.
you?
Right.
Yeah.
I know. I love that I just looked at Steve right now and said that I'm going to ask him a question on the ENTP. And I could tell this is such a Steve moment when Steve has not moved past what we were just talking about.
She can see it in my eyes.
I could see it in his eyes. He is only thinking about cocktails. He wasn't done.
True.
He,
That's
you know,
so
he does it to
funny.
us so often. I can't even tell you. We'll be like, and
Yeah.
he will have 5 more things to say. And we're like, and Jacqueline and I look at each other and we're like, all right, we weren't done
Right,
yet.
we're not done yet.
Well, thank you guys for going with me. Freedom to call me out. Although that is funny. We we know each other
It's
so well.
almost like a glaze.
It is. It's,
It's
a
a
glaze.
glaze.
It is
It's a glaze.
glazed,
You
for
can
sure.
see it in my eyes,
Yeah.
and I can see in your eyes that you can see it in
Yeah.
my eyes.
She caught me right.
That's funny. But come on, it was just so fun.
It was
The
fun.
cocktails.
What do you need now in this moment?
Okay, we can move on. My eyes are bright. I'm ready.
I'm dying. Okay. I have a question for you. Since you're representing the ENT, actually, I don't have a question. I thought I would read to you the ones that came out and just give, if you could, like, what do you think of the themes there? If they, by the way, ENTP is called a visionary, at least on this one. I know, right? Does that make you feel so good? I've seen different ones because yours is called a nurturer on this one, right? And I know. So sometimes Myers-Briggs
I like that a lot more than the defender.
Yeah.
defender. So visionary.
They can feel, it's like yesterday in the conversation, Joe, I said, like, I answered Abigail's question with like, well, I'm a visionary, so da-da-da. And then later I was like, oh, that sounded bad. Like, it sounded like a brag. Like, it can sound like a cut down or a brag, these words.
Right.
Totally.
And it's like, no, they're just saying that you're the way your brain works is oriented this way.
Yes.
It is kind of wild how like the emotions that the titles bring out. Like some of them feel like very negative, almost universal negative emotions.
Like this article that I may or may not get to, but like I'm called the reformer. And that just, I feel like it has such a negative reform.
Yeah. Or like the challenger.
Yes. Like poor Enneagram 8s.
I like I know,
man.
right. I like the INTJs because they're called the masterminds. And I get jealous of them.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the worst is Jacqueline, the perfectionist.
The perfectionist, I know.
Is
it's
a negative word in our language.
Totally. Yeah.
But actually in that context, it means the improver. The person who makes things better.
Right.
When I'm like, wait.
Well explained, that's a great word.
Yeah, that feels a lot nicer.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that.
Now,
what a visionary
I have to say,
answer.
I'm going to go back to you, Steve, because this one is super interesting. I need to go back to the visionary.
She did double down and started defending herself. I'm like, dang.
She might even be a challenger.
Poor Sunday's trying to get to the content.
Sunday can't.
All right.
ENTP. Yours is interesting because it has two sides to it, but I'll just say him. Attorney, copywriter.
Clearly.
Oh my God.
My worst job.
God, literally the thing you're worst.
Yeah. And you hate
Please,
it.
no one hired me
it.
ever to copyright for you. Okay.
Psychologist, systems
fun.
analyst, creative director, and operations specialist.
Not an operations
interesting.
specialist.
Now, what jumps out at you? I want to know what jumps out at you.
I have a minor degree in business. What was the phrase?
Let's see, systems analyst.
Yeah. Which never made sense. I was like, I'm not a systems analyst, but yet, I don't know. Somehow I ended the thing. Oh man, that is a funny list. I have never heard those together.
That was kind of a funny list.
I don't want to speak. Was there something that stood out to you?
Read them again real quick.
Okay. Attorney, copywriter, financial planner, psychologist, systems analyst, creative director, and operations specialist.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 thoughts. One is totally shocked at Greenhouse how many times we've had lawyers who are trying to pivot into a people helping job. And I'm like, what? Those are opposites. Well, now I see the thread. Now I get it. Second thought is a lot of those are systems, not systems thinking, but like system oriented roles. And I do think that's a theme for that type where you see almost like meta trends. Like you see in concepts or you see in trends and patterns. Patterns was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And so someone who sees in patterns gets really frustrated with stuff that's in the weeds because their mind is constantly trying to pull out further. But a lot of those roles are addressing like the bigger arcs. So even the way I'm saying that is,
oh God,
that's what jumps out at me because again, something no one really like points out on the surface level of an assessment. But those would sound like different jobs, but they have that thread.
The other thing that really stands out to me is I bet people would be like, wait, how in the same bucket is a systems analyst and a creative director? Which I think is so interesting because that's that whole thing where you're either or, and it's not. It's not an either or. And you are like the epitome of systems and creative. Yeah,
because
that's so true.
Those types, one of the misunderstandings is that they don't, let me go at the other direction. So they are data people but not in the way Americans in 2023 think about data. We think about data as like only the scientific process. But there's another form of data, which is more of like the situational data. And that's why those two roles fit, because they're actually seeing the patterns like a data analyst would, but in a different way. So it's actually one of my gripes with like our current corporate hiring system is it only values one side of the data, but you need both in an organization. Because a lot of the like looking at, like I worked in hard science, you look just at the numbers and you don't know the why behind the numbers.
Yeah.
You need both sides to know like why the numbers are saying what they're saying, the story of it.
Yeah.
And that's where like creative director and systems analyst
systems analyst. Yeah.
Connect.
Well, I'm going to move over to you and read yours and just see if you have any reactions to yours. Here's nurturer, ISFJ, correct? And yours are accountant,
Oh God.
financial clerk, bank teller, research analyst, administrative manager, photographer, and elementary teacher.
Okay, the first three, like for me,
Yeah.
I am not like math is so hard for me. Like it's a joke. Like truly my brain, like I don't math at all. But then the last ones, I feel like administrative management or whatever that was. That's like all I've ever done in my career, is some form of like administrative management. Basically someone who like does a little bit of everything.
Sees the big picture,
But detail oriented, makes everything happen that needs to happen, that kind of thing. I see the parallels with like elementary teacher. You're managing lots of different things, lots of different tasks. And then what was the other one?
Photographer. I was curious if.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know.
I don't think I would be very good at that, but I can see.
What do you think the qualities of a good photographer are?
Detail oriented. Sees the big picture, like has a vision for what it looks like, but knows what to do along the way to get it done.
Yep.
Obviously, they have like an artistic.
Yeah. Interesting.
But what were the first three?
That cracked me up, right? Accountant, financial clerk, and bank teller.
Which, by the way,
So specific.
again, nothing
So
wrong
specific.
with those roles.
No,
I'm just
very
saying for
clear.
me, that's
Yeah.
just very funny because I would say those are probably the last things I should do. I would probably mess up a lot of things if I did any of those jobs. Like, can you imagine if I was an accountant?
Math, you could remove the math from it.
Yeah, removing the math, it feels very process oriented. Again, details, creating systems. So
The
yeah,
bank
that's
teller is giving a good experience for the person.
that's true. Like a
as
client
well as
experience.
taking care of a need.
Yep. Same with like a teacher. Care of people.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to jump over to you, Joe, who is representing our ENFP. This one, we already mentioned the bartender, but reporter or news anchor, editor,
No.
musician, product manager, elementary school teacher, personal trainer, social worker. How do any of those, what are the themes you see? What resonates?
Oh, can you read the list one more time?
Sure. One more time. You reporter or news anchor, editor, musician, product manager, elementary school teacher, personal trainer, and social worker.
Initial reaction for me?
Yeah.
I can never be an editor.
Yeah.
But that's just because of I struggle to like notice what kind of editor is that, first of all?
Right.
Is that like
By the way, that is, jump in here, but editor for an ENFP does, I feel like,
yeah.
wow. Like,
Surprising. Yeah.
very
Yeah, that
surprising.
does-
I'd love to know more about that.
Like, why they
maybe none of
picked
us are
that.
editors, so we
Yeah.
don't know what that means. But
I mean, I'm producer.
Yeah.
I could do that. But I would say for me, editor off the list, elementary school teacher, I see where they're coming from of like that it can be fun, like you're interacting with kids. It's a little bit different each day. I personally don't think that I would be a great fit for that, but I think that those are the characteristics they're talking about where there's like kids, there are a lot of excitement in elementary school that middle school or high school doesn't have. So I think that's why they suggested that. And then what were the last two?
personal trainer was on
Personal
there.
trainer could
too.
definitely do that.
Musician, which
And
you are.
News reporter.
Yeah.
I feel like all of those I would love.
Yeah.
And then what was after personal trainer?
Social worker.
That one was interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would like it for a short period of time,
Yeah.
but I struggle. I think I would embody a lot of what everyone was feeling. And I think that would be very tough for me.
A lot of
if I was in
people who
social
are
working.
in that field say that too.
Mhm. Which, I don't really know what personality wouldn't, because it's tough.
Well,
But-
it's interesting just flipping that to some people have said that assume that the best nurses are the most caring. And actually, I have a nurse family member and she's quite strict and stern and she's one of the best nurses. On the other side, it doesn't mean that but she leads with logic. She's like, I'm here to save a life and move on to the next person. It doesn't mean that she doesn't care. So
They're
that's
like the problem solving part of
Yeah.
social work. I think I would really like being able to come in and do something about it,
Mhm.
interact with people, make people feel comfortable. I think
Yeah.
that's another trait that's
That's
coming
what
in.
I
Like
see too.
whether you're on stage,
Yeah.
like as a musician
Yeah.
or a news anchor, like you want to make people feel like
Yeah.
they're your friend and you're comfortable with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely have seen career coach and life coach on other lists for ENFPs as well.
But I think what you guys were just talking about highlights why getting a layer under the surface matters.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking with yours, Jacqueline, that, and feel free to push back if you think this isn't true of you, but I'm thinking of a different assessment. That type has an element of facilitating replication. So there's like an ability to like create or take a process and make sure it's replicated and stays consistent. But the facilitation piece adds in the people element, which is why I could see
Yeah.
bank teller on your list, even though you don't resonate with that. A bank teller is doing that. They're working with people to replicate a process over and over. And that is like fitting for the bank teller, but doesn't mean everyone that type would want to be a bank teller.
Yeah.
It can apply in all kinds of different roles.
And also, like, the bank teller is almost a dead job right now.
Maybe that's why we laugh so hard. It's like, what is a bank teller?
Yeah, what
There's
do they
this
do?
new thing. It's called an automated teller.
I know. And I have definitely done this Myers-Briggs assessment for years at this one company where I was, put there to just be a career coach. And so many times we'd have great laughs at the fact that there were outdated jobs on the list. And so we'd have our good laugh and then get back to the themes. So
Yeah.
it would be fun to see one with really current new jobs, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd love to see that.
Great. Read us yours.
Yeah, I'm going to represent the ENTJ, which
ENFJ.
is yes. Thank you. That's what I actually
No,
meant.
I just was
I'm
like,
totally
because
not an ENTJ. Just
you're an
listen to-
you were representing ENTP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Okay, there it is. Yeah.
When I read both, I am on the border. And when
Yeah.
I read both, I'm like, resonate with a lot of things from both.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really,
Being
for the
ENTP.
first time, really in this one could see a lot of the ENTP piece in you.
Yeah.
So
I'm right on
I
that
believe you
TF
finally.
border too.
with the ENFJ.
I am baffled by editor for ENFP.
I know.
What?
I'm stuck on
All I
that
could
one.
think was freedom, like that you'd have a
Okay, that was good.
flexible schedule.
No, that's
Like
true.
maybe that's the closest.
And there's
to
a lot of
freelancers on that.
variety
Yeah.
in editing. You'd probably look at a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about like a magazine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they do a lot, but it feels very detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm
wouldn't I
wrong.
be the worst? I mean, you guys,
Maybe.
I would.
I have a hard time
Well, and
saying
it
that on a
seems
mic.
very introverted as a role type. is
Yeah.
why
If
I'm
you're
stuck on
an
it. Like,
editor, let us know what you actually
Yeah.
do and what your
Yeah.
personality type.
And how you think it connects to the ENFP.
yeah.
ENFJ. It's so funny. It's not giving me let me try that again.
Yeah.
Right there. ENFJ, the giver. What that one represents.
Giver.
Guidance counselor, sales manager, HR director, art director, public relations manager. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel, I mean, you guys know I've talked about sales before. People always tell me I'd be great at it. And I think I would be great at sales only if I believed in it, because if I didn't, I would suck because I'm incredibly authentic. But I do think if it was like my thing, I could probably,
Like if
Yeah.
it were the
Yeah.
tennis shoes you're wearing.
just an easy product too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could love that. Right.
Yeah.
Guidance counselor feels very much similar to being like a career and life counselor
Totally.
as well in the HR. Also the director. I like that twice it says director,
Yeah.
as I definitely like to be a bit in charge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure. And then public relations manager, I had a piece of in my job with the Jonas Group.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a taste of that because it's all about like the storytelling around the people.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cindy, I feel like yours is the first one where I 1000% see you in everything that they mentioned.
I agree. I
Yeah.
could see you in any of those
Yeah.
roles.
Sometimes when someone will say to me, I feel really on the fence between these two letters. Remember when we did the personality for
Yes.
the hell types?
Yeah.
Yes.
That will help people like, oh my gosh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think with this one, to be honest with you, I feel more resonating with the ENFJ jobs than I would necessarily the ENFP ones.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me just think I've developed into that space so much more. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we don't have time to go over them all today. I just really wanted to talk about it so that people could say, well, let me take a look at what it says and then maybe talk to other people about it. If you are blind to what you can't see, sometimes other people can see the connecting dots, but don't get married to the actual job title because that's not the purpose of it. It's just, again, a guide.